Hello and welcome to Esri Australia's screen share video tutorial on how to create and design a survey with Survey123. Now firstly, Survey123 allows users to create, share and analyze surveys. Although surveys must be published online, they can be downloaded onto personal mobile devices or tablets such as iPads. Data can be collected on Survey123 even when devices are disconnected from the internet, making it really useful for schools. The next time the device is connected, survey results will be uploaded. Survey123 allows users to analyze their results quickly, view data in tables, graphs, and spatial map formats, and lastly, this data can be imported into a map on ArcGIS Online as a feature layer. This is particularly useful for teachers and students as Survey123 is valuable for fieldwork, whether in a diagnostic, formative or summative assessment, allowing for the convenient and user-friendly recording of data. Now the first step is to first visit survey123.arcgis.com, which will bring you to this sign in page, and you're going to click sign in. And like normal, you will enter your ArcGIS login details that you would normally use to log into ArcGIS Online. It may take a little bit to load, but when it does, you're presented with a screen that holds all of your past surveys that you've already published. And we should see mine in just a second, which are just here. Now once we're on this page, if we wish to create a new survey, we simply need to go up to the Create a New Survey button and click. And it'll give us two options, using the web designer or using Survey123 Connect. Now, I use the web designer because it's quick, it's simple, and it's easy to navigate, whereas Survey123 does require a further learning or competent knowledge of authoring advanced XLS spreadsheets. So we're going to click on the using the web designer option and click Get Started. And it will bring us up a little bit of an authoring task. We need to name our survey, enter some tags and an optional summary. You notice that these are asterisks, which means you need to complete them. So for today's tutorial, we're going to look at the livability of parks in your local area. So we're going to type in how livable are your parks. And for tags, I'm going to enter parks, livability, environmental, or maybe just environment, and social, because I'm interested in the environmental and social livability of the area. And if you wanted to provide some extra context for those taking your survey, you could write one or two sentences in there explaining the purpose of it. Today I'm going to leave that blank and click Create. It sometimes takes a little moment to create, but then it will bring us into the survey itself, where we can begin to add questions and begin designing the survey from question 1 all the way through to our last question. And here we are. And before we start just adding questions, just point you out that there are tabs up here that will become more useful as we progress. Really, the only two that we're looking at in today's video is the Design tab, which is where we can add and edit our questions and the way our survey appears, and the Collaborate tab, which will look at how we can share this with those we want to participate in our survey. So we're going to go to the Design tab first, and we are really quite ready to start adding our questions. And you can see down here there are about 20 question types here, and sometimes it's a little bit of trial and error. You can view these question types by searching into Google something like Survey123 question types, and it does give you a little bit of an explanation of each type of question. However, I always like to start my questions with a question that requires students to record their location. So for instance, I'm going to drag map into here and see how it automatically swaps from add to edit. And this gives me the opportunity to edit each question on the fly. Alternatively, I could add all my questions in straight away and then edit them afterwards. but I'm going to edit them one at a time. And I always start with this map question because it requires students to map their location, which means that I can actually use this data in ArcGIS Online later because there's latitude and longitude data. So I'm going to click in label where it says untitled question 1, and I'm going to write locate the park that you are surveying. And you can add extra details by giving some instructions on how to answer the question. For example, enter the park's address or manually find it by zooming in. And it would require students to enter their park's address there, or they could, using their thumbs if they're on an iPad or an iPhone, reposition the geo point here until they were happy with where it was sitting. And you can see here that this mapping tool has a couple of capabilities. If you weren't interested in a single location and you wanted to record your park run for instance, or the route it takes for you to get to school, you could choose line, and it would constantly track that student's GPS from start point to end point. So there's a couple of options there, and I'm going to leave that as it is, and I want to make it a required question because I do want my data to be mapped. So I'm going to click yes there, and I can hit save to save as I go. I would recommend saving regularly because you are working online and you don't want to run the risk of putting a significant amount of time into this and then losing it with something like an internet connection. And then I'm happy with that mapping question. I can go back to the add function and I can add another question in. And we're going to add maybe 7 or 8 just so you get a feel for what some of these questions do. I'm going to add a drop down in to here, and you can either just click and it will add automatically, or you can click and drag. And it takes me back to this edit function, and again this time I'm going to ask, does the park have barbecue and picnic facilities? Question mark. And to give my readers, my participants some extra information, I'm going to say choose one option, which they can only do anyway with the drop down question. But I don't need 3 choices there, I only need 2, yes and no. And again, I want to make this a required question. So I'm going to click that tick. I'm going to add another drop down in. I always like to add some drop downs at the start because I find it's a good way to orient my students to the process that they're following before I get into some new ones. I'm going to ask, does the park have fenced areas? And again, I'm just going to add 2, yes and no. And why might I be asking these questions? Well, I'm interested in the social livability of the park. You know, is it socially friendly for families and friends to have barbecues and picnics? Is the playground area fenced off if it's near a road, for example? Because that's a safety concern. I would like to know that information. Again, it's a required question. I'm going to hit add. Let's change it up from drop down. Another one that is quite popular is our single choice option, and I'm going to just click to add it in. And I'm going to ask this time, does the playground area have, let's reword that, what surface does the playground area have? And we might be interested in, is it a soft fall surface? Is it concrete? Is it bark? Or we can even add a 4th one in this time by pressing the plus icon. So the plus and the minus takes choices away or adds extra choices. My last one might be, is it sand based? And if I think that's taking a bit too much space up, the great thing about this single choice is I can choose how I want it to be displayed. So I could go horizontal, or I can make it compact so it's taking up a lot less space. and looks a little bit more appealing, but that's up to personal preference. Again, a required question. We're going to do another drop down because I'm going to show you a little bit of a trick with this drop down. I'm going to add this one in, and we're going to ask this time, are there public toilets? Again, we're considering the are public toilets available? And we're asking this because we're interested in the social livability of the area, and it's going to be a simple yes/no question. And it's going to be required. We're going to hit save because we've done 4 questions without saving, but this time I'm going to add a follow-up question to this one, and I'm going to chuck in a Likert question, which is one of these scaled questions, and I don't want 5 options. I'm going to choose 3 to make it a bit more simple, but I'm going to change this to describe the cleanliness of the public bathroom. Again, you might need to specify some extra instructions. Only visit your gendered bathroom, just to create some rules around it, some safety around it. If these students were for some reason doing it late in the afternoon or at night, you might specify that, hey, it's not actually safe to be doing that. Don't visit it at night. It's up to you to set those rules around it. And I've removed 2 of the options. I don't need 5 or 7. I'm just going to keep it simple and say dirty, very unclean, neutral I'll leave, and I'll put this one as very clean. And now I want to show you, this is a required question. We're going to put that there, but we're going to use this thing here, which is our set rule. So if students answered no to are public toilets available, then there would be no point asking this follow-up question. But if they answer yes, then we would like some additional information around those public bathrooms. And so we can set a rule, and we can say that, well, sorry, I need to set the rule above on this one because it's for this question. We need to set this rule, and we say that if it's yes, then we want to show question 6, describe the cleanliness of the public bathroom. Which means that in the actual survey, once it's published, it will only be displayed if they answer yes. And you can see that that rule has appeared just here for us and just here to show us that it has taken place. And I'll just open this up for a second, and I just want to point this out, that these follow-up questions are only supported by single choice drop-down, Likert, and rating questions. It won't work for the majority of the other questions. I'm going to hit OK. Let's add 3 or 4 more questions just to get a bit of a feel for some different types. I'm going to click on this one so that my next one goes down below 6, and I'm going to use a rating question this time. And I'm going to ask, rate the quality of the grassed areas. And, well, what do I mean by quality? I might need to specify, consider dirt patches, length of grass, and colour. And I want to keep it as 5 stars, and they will need to select that. And yes, that's a bit of a qualitative question, but still valuable. Again, required, and I'm going to go to add, and this time we're going to go a little bit different. We're going to use a number question, and I'm interested in how many bins are available in the park. And that's a fairly for numbered questions, I would recommend that you specify how you want it to be answered. Enter a number in numeric value, e.g, 5 or 17, whoops, that's 15, 17. Okay, because if some students decide to answer it as a worded one, for instance, ONE for one, rather than numbered, then that's going to cause problems for your analysis and your data on the other side. We're going to make this a required question, and you can add some extra rules around the number values if you wish. I'm going to hit save again, and we're going to look at adding one more question, and I want to show you this one here, our image question. So with our surveys, you can actually get students or participants to take a photo of their particular park or whatever it is that you're looking to survey. So in this case, I might want students to identify a hazard. Take a photo of a hazard you have identified in the park. And that might be something like hazards may include broken fences, broken playground equipment, long grass, glass on the ground, etc. So just give them a bit of an example of what you might be after, and again, it's a required question which asks participants to take a photo, which can be viewed later on in ArcGIS Online as well. And we're going to hit save. So once we've saved our work, we're ready to publish. And we can click on the publish button, and if you wish to modify schema, you can. I never do, but there is an option to do that. I'm going to cross that off, and I'm going to click on the publish button. And it begins running a check, making sure that there are no issues in your survey creation in the way that you've designed your survey, but it can take up to a minute or two to finish that publishing process. Once your survey has been successfully published, this little pop-up window does appear. It says the survey has been published. Now you can access the survey link here and distribute it to end users for data collection. You can hit OK, so you just remember that little link allows you to access that URL that you can share with participants. We're going to go to the Collaborate tab now, which is where you can set the rules about how you wish to share this survey with others. Please note that in order to set these rules and to share the survey, it does need to be published first. So if we click on this Submitter tab, which comes up automatically, you can choose who can contribute to the survey and what function each submitter is able to perform. So for instance, you can choose how you want to distribute this survey. So for instance, the link can open the survey in a browser directly, or you can open the survey in the Survey123 field app directly, and you can learn more about that option by clicking this, but it's essentially an app for Apple or Windows phones where you can take the survey offline, fill in the data, and then next time you're connected to the internet, it uploads it back onto Survey123. And you can share either via URL or via a QR code too. And this will open the survey in a new tab. You can set rules about who can submit to your survey. So if you're only interested in students being able to view the survey, then you would click members of my organization. However, if you were perhaps working for a business, well then maybe you're looking for anybody or everyone to participate. So you can set those rules there, and you can set rules around what submitters can do. So for instance, you might only wish submitters to add new records. You might allow them to add and update their records. You might even allow them to delete records. I know that when I'm working with students, I don't really want them making changes, especially not at a junior level. Maybe at a senior level you might be able to trust them with the updating one, but I only want my juniors to be able to add new records. You can enable a draft mode if you wish. You can set rules around how many submissions each user can submit this survey. So for instance, because you're logged onto your ArcGIS Online account, it can recognize individual users. I know that for something like a class survey. If you had sent students home with this particular survey to go and survey their own local parks, well, I don't want multiple submissions, so I'd only choose on this one. But that's up to your end goals and what you're hoping to get from it. And you can open the survey at any time, you can close it at any time, you can make these changes to this at any time. So even though you've saved your survey, you've published it, you can go back in and change these whenever you wish. So you might go, well, hey, you've got the weekend to do this homework, to do this survey, so I'm going to open it up from Friday through to Monday and expect that you do this homework, this survey over the weekend. And after that it closes and it's no longer able to be accessed. So again, up to your personal preferences, up to what your end goals are. And you can also set some rules around what the viewers can see. So again, who can view results of this survey? You might only want to select students in your organisation, members of your organisation. You might not want to make it available for the public. That's up to you. And what data can viewers see once the survey results are finished? Well, you might want to maintain a bit of privacy and they can only view their own records. Or you might wish for them to be able to analyse the class results, and so you need to give them access to all records in the survey. And lastly, you have these group settings, and you can manage groups further by going to ArcGIS Online. So there's some easy ways to collaborate. It's really important that after you've published it, you do go to this Collaborate tab and you consider how you want your submitters and viewers to act in relation to your survey. And then of course the last step to getting your survey off the ground and running is to provide this link to students or to your participants so that they can participate in your survey. And that brings us to an end of today's tutorial on how to create, design and share your Survey123. Thanks for listening.